Hey everyone, it's Rick Carson. I'm at the beautiful Maple Leaf Studios, and today I'm here to talk about SSL revolutionizing the recording studio. So today SSL announced the Oracle, which I was very excited to hear what was coming out because I've heard grumblings and rumors through the rumor mill for a couple months now about this product, and I have also been considering changing up things here at the studio, but ultimately I have now seen the Oracle, and I'm here to give you my first impressions. I want to preface this by saying that I'm an SSL fanboy. I own an SSL. I saved up all of my pennies to buy an SSL. I've never owned a car, but I own an SSL. I walk to work and I drive an SSL. And for me, I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of my console, and I was very excited to see what they were going to do to revolutionize the recording studio, because the 4000 did revolutionize the recording studio in multiple ways. And I have to say that my feelings today fall a little bit flat. I want to talk about the pros before I get into the cons. So the first thing that I'm very excited about is that this console, for the first time in SSL's tenure when it comes to an analog design, seems to have instant recall, the way that digital consoles that SSL makes have. And that is very exciting to me, because the workflow of having to go and turn all of the knobs back on a Duality or a 9000, even though they were faster analog consoles to work on, it is hampering, and it does lead you into some boxes and corners where maybe you want to leave the overheads exactly the way they are so that they can stay the same way for the next 9 songs and not have to change when you're paying $1,500 a day on this room that you're not super comfortable in. This is great. The fact that all of the knobs go back to where you put them, and that I can turn the bass up on the left channel of the room for just this song and never have to worry about it again because it's coming back and it's going away. I love that. And a lot of people are making jokes that SSL has recreated the Euphonics CS2000 or 3000 or one of those consoles from back in the day. And I will say that if instant recall is right where you go to something like the Euphonics, I think that Euphonics made very great sounding consoles that made some great sounding records. I love Jagged Little Pill, and I'm pretty sure that that was done on a Euphonics. That said, ultimately, the big thing for me is that it's a step forward. That's what we want out of the market. That's what I think the market is looking for, is something that they can work on that changes as quickly as the vibes do in the studio. And this is, the first SSL analog product that I think really brings that. The next thing that I love is the size. I think that they, with their Harrison offering earlier this year and this new Oracle offering in the Origin, they are dialing in on what the size and shape of a modern console is. I don't think that there's too much spaces for 11-foot consoles like this or 16-foot consoles. I think that those rooms are really going away, and having something that size, even for a room like this, is very, very attractive to me. I love it. As far as the layout goes, I am going to start getting into where I think we missed the mark. I love that the EQs are front and center and right in front of you. A lot of console designs that I see take up tons and tons of space for auxiliary sends and things that I don't spend too much time actually working on. There's a lot of consoles in the market currently that they don't even come with EQs. They just come with tons of sends. And knobs are knobs. Put the money into the fucking EQs, in my opinion. But this console did not miss the mark there. The EQs are front and center. But where are the dynamics? If it's an SSL and you're going to be charging what they're charging, which we're going to get into, I believe there should be dynamics. And what I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, Internet, is that there is dynamic EQ, so that each of the bands may be able to have some sort of dynamic function, but it does not seem that there are channel dynamics for each channel. It does not seem that there are channel dynamics that I can go and interact with and set up real quick and gate the whole drum set and, do some of the cool dynamic tricks that you can do on an SSL right there. And that is frustrating to see, especially after seeing the Origin come out and see what a great product that was, but lacking channel dynamics. And maybe SSL's moving past that. Maybe they fully believe that someone should just go and get the dynamics that they need instead of having them on every single channel where it eats up a lot of cost into the design. And I can understand that, and that's a conversation to have. I think that the market, though, wants that. And that's interesting because as me, a part of the market, I do want that. I don't use every channel of dynamics on my current SSL, but I really like that they're there, and I do turn them on when I need them. So something to think about there. The next thing is the layout. For me personally, I don't love how the console's laid out. It doesn't seem super intuitive to me. And I see that there's busing options between the banks of channels and stuff like that. And it seems like there's options that will, do things to whole banks and a way to maybe customize the desk in global ways that I would have to get into. I think that all of that stuff makes a console fast to work on when you spend a lot of time on it, and hard to get around on when you are renting out a room. And I have an interesting dilemma because I fall in a situation where not only do I utilize this studio probably more than anybody else in the world, but other people utilize this studio too. And the SSL 4000, even as it sits, is a console that you need to spend time on to fully understand. And if you want to use the computer, you're going to need to spend time with a book to really go down that road. Where this console, if you know how a Mackie works, or really any sort of analog console, it's relatively easy to get around on the API. It's in some bus outs and EQ. This seems like a little bit more of a mountain to climb for young engineers. And I personally think if we're going to revolutionize the recording studio, it's about being comfortable. And I could see a few things already that probably jumping the gun on, but I want to see how people interact with this thing. The Neve Genesis is a perfect example of this, where it's just a little bit too deep, too menu divey for even me to sink my teeth into. But that said, I know the guys at SSL are very, very smart. So I'm excited to try it. I'm excited to hear it. Let's talk about the sound. I don't know anything about the sound of the Oracle, but I can say that I've heard the Big Sixes, I've heard the Origins, and the new SSL stuff has a sound. Do I think that it sounds exactly like my 4000? No. Do I think that it sounds bad? No. Do I think that it sounds bright and punchy? I do. Do I think that it sounds as heavy or as gritty as the 4000? I don't. But it's still cool as long as you're happy with the results that you're getting out of it. And if you need to add a little bit more low end, turn up the low end. An SSL always sounded thinner than an Eve, didn't really stop anyone there. That said, I want to get into the cost, which I have come to learn is and I don't know how you guys feel, but there's not too many recording studios I know that are in a position to be throwing down that sort of change to revolutionize their world. And for me, I'm in a position where I'm trying to make some changes. And I'm going to go and really sit with that decision and see if it is for me. I haven't decided if I want that console. If I got rid of my SSL and my API and maybe a couple other things here at the studio, I could probably afford to get an Oracle in here. I've got to really sit down and figure out if I think that's a good decision. I want to believe it's a good decision because, one, I want a new SSL. Who doesn't want a new SSL? And two, I really want to see what they're thinking about when it comes to revolutionizing the recording studio. Because if I'm going to revolutionize the recording studio, I at least got to check out what other people are doing, right? It's real easy for me to justify stuff. I could buy any piece of gear and justify it. Don't even worry. That said, it's still a lot of money, man. And I have to go and talk to the other engineers in town, see if they're excited about it. I've got to look at the racks and see if there's ways to plug in multiple things. So, I know the whole console can recall, but can I have a billion things plugged in and have them grab all those and pull them, plug them in? Because that's what I really want. I don't want a patch bay. I haven't seen a patch bay in any photos of the desk, which that is pretty cool. So lots and lots of things to think about. Curious on your guys' thoughts, curious on how you feel, and excited to see where this goes. Have a great day.